start? Bob has to officially swear us in? All right. Please do that duty, Bob Bamick.
Swearing in, let's stand. I'd like to just make a quick comment as we get started. For many, many years, I've been part of this meeting, and prior to that, I worked very closely with the city of Winona. Some of that time, I worked with Commissioner Pomeroy, and Jim, I think this might be your last official meeting tonight. And I want to recognize you, and I sincerely want to say thanks for the leadership and the positive support that you always gave us. We were down on something that wasn't working well. We looked at what went really well, and you were just a leader in that area. It means a lot to us.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. So for tonight, this is the Winona County Board of Appeal and Equalization, and a couple words added at some point. We want to make sure that we've got our proper title. So we'll have everyone raise their right hand and repeat after me, and the first two are I and your name, and then we'll continue with the oath of office. So I,
Greg Steve Jacob,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of America,
the Constitution
of the State of Minnesota,
and will perform
the duties of the Winona County Board of Appeal and Equalization to the best of my knowledge and ability. So help me God. The oath has been administered. Each of you sign, and we'll have this on.
do you need a special pen?
I have one here, but you know what? Last year, the special pen I didn't get returned. We have one this year.
and we're on a tight budget.
Probably not one that needed it, probably,
Okay, I don't know if the order matters, but
Wells Fargo. I've got a Wells Fargo.
Oh, I always have. Well, you always have dollar when on the national.
I haven't bought a pen in years.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought it had to be blue. It's yours, so we'll.
So you're saying you took it?
At the end.
It was given to me.
I mean, the
They
special
have to give you a
pen.
pen.
What?
The special pen is missing.
The special pen.
Special pen.
Bought it in here.
Yes, put the two together and.
Advertising pens.
County Auditor Treasurer Sandra will also be signing. She is officially part of the board that's meeting this evening.
That's the special pen. She's not using the special pen.
She's special, so.
I just don't like that kind of ink. It smears for me.
It's the pen special.
Just so you got the pen back. That's
Yeah, you got your pen back, Bob? Put it on a retractable.
yes.
Thank you, Bob.
Chris, be sure to report that he got his pen back.
Earlier, so I have some insight and his comments tonight, so I'm going to leave you out to your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
At this point, you need to elect a chair and a secretary of the meeting.
And what? Let's see.
Who's currently the chair?
I'm looking in the meeting minutes.
I move to elect Marcia Ward chair.
Second.
Okay, the train has left the station. Nominations are open. Marcia Ward's been nominated. Are there any other nominations for chair? Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. All those in favor of Marcia Ward being chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right. Thank you. Secretary.
I move Steve Jacob be elected secretary.
Second.
Okay, we have nominations for Commissioner Jacob. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, they are closed. All those in favor of Commissioner Steve Jacob being secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? You are the secretary.
This is the easiest
So
job I've
minutes
had.
are being kept over.
I know.
I don't have to do anything, right?
You have to read them before next year and make sure they're correct. Okay. Moving on. In the agenda, item 3, property owners' appeals?
We have none.
We have none. All right. Item 4, review assessor 2017 report.
Thank you. I think everybody should have a copy of my report. I believe you can all read, so I won't sit there and read it verbatim. Just a few highlights I'd like to cover tonight. I think the first thing we'll talk about is farmland. Values stayed the same for another year. We'll see what happens. One wouldn't think that commodity prices would allow prices to stay at the rate they are, but we had an assessors meeting the other day, and nobody's seeing them going down, so I don't know what's going on.
But I do have to ask, in my neck of the woods, my part of the county, boy, you're saying A1 land,
But that's,
6,
but that isn't necessarily going to be, A1 land has to have a crop equivalency rating of 94 or higher on it. Most of the land down your way is going to have much lower classifications.
right. And what's the, do you know what the average crop equivalency is in my neighborhood?
It depends on every property will be different.
Okay.
I'm guessing most of them are probably under 80.
I would think so.
And the other thing that comes into account on that is field shape and field sizes. The majority of our Class A1 land sits in one of the 6 southwest townships in the county.
Right. And do you, at the 6 plus thousand an acre, do you have to have so many sales to justify that?
We had
Price?
when we get
Oh.
later in the report,
There's that many sales?
there was 26 sales this year that we used to, it's on the back
Okay.
of the front page.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
26 sales used this year, which is probably the most we've had ever since I've been here. So we do have a lot of activity.
Okay.
Non-tillables at 2,500, that's been the same for a number of years. House rates start at 110, but they get adjusted a lot. We did not change that rate this year. We are required to administer a state time adjustment, which was 3.45% this year in residential, or about 3% less than last year. One would think with lack of listings, the prices would go up, but they didn't go up as much as they did the year before. So I think interest rates are a little bit higher than they were a year ago, and frankly, a lot of folks can't find the place they're looking for anyway. And so, I mean, it's the Twin Cities market, which obviously is much different than ours. Last month, the first time since they kept MLS statistics, had less than 10,000 listings in the 13-county metro area. Wow. And I think we're talking back into the 80s. So there's nothing for sale up there either.
Are there bidding wars in areas like that?
What's that now?
Bidding wars?
In the Twin Cities?
Yeah.
We haven't seen much of it here.
Okay.
The metro area, having a child that's
You know
sold,
what is, I'll tell
yes.
you where there's crazy bidding wars right now is Rochester in certain price ranges.
Okay.
And
What's the price range?
$200,000 in Rochester, and they will have 6 bids before the house is even open. People are making bids without looking at it.
With no contingencies.
No,
You know, that's the big thing. And the latest thing, having had one of my children sell a house and buy a house in the metro area, the bids are almost all higher than the asking price.
Yes.
No contingencies. And the thing now is to read these sad little letters from the applicant saying, oh, please sell your house to me. We're such a cute couple and we need this.
the kids would love it here so well.
Yeah, it's
But you talk
a new
about
marketing
increases
thing.
in Markets. One of the fastest growing areas in the Twin Cities, the city of Plymouth, which is on the way west end of Minneapolis. If you have X house in the Wayzata School District compared to X house in the Osseo or Robbinsdale District, it's worth a minimum of $50,000 more
Yep.
inside the same city.
Yep.
That's how much more the Wayzata School District, people think it's worth having their kids in school there than in the other 2 districts.
Yep. School districts are driving a lot of the young parents. Yes.
So, we don't see that here, but when we get to the next paragraph, you will see our 2 hottest markets right now are Lewiston and St. Charles. St. Charles especially. You can't find anything. They're building $450,000 spec houses in St. Charles right now.
Is that with the DMC, the destination?
Absolutely, yeah. Yoda, you can't find a place there. You can't find a place in Roch. I think they're creeping into Lewiston even right now.
Wow.
Lewiston's biggest issue, they had a meeting last night up there. Their biggest issue is they don't have any bare lots in the city. So they're looking at some alternatives to create some lots right now in Lewiston.
How's South Fork doing?
There's land there.
There's land, it's
No,
just
that's,
not
yeah, they're pretty well good. I mean,
The first phase, there was
Good.
3 phases. I think first phase is almost 100%. I think they're working on
Is that what's
phase
that
2.
in?
It was, South Fork was in like phases.
Yeah, I believe
First,
everything has been sold.
in first,
phase 1.
yes.
I
And
believe they're working on planning of
Phase 2.
phase 2 as we speak.
yes, yeah.
I've had constituents in St. Charles tell me that they're there because just across the county line in Olmsted, taxes are significantly higher. So they're willing to drive just a little bit farther to get into Winona County.
Oh, yeah.
That helps our economy.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, the only place we had a general residential decrease was New Hartford, but we had a pretty big increase there last year. Sometimes these small districts where we get that 5 or 6 sales a year thing, some years they're up, some years they're down. They tend to be a little more bouncy than the good news St. Charles's and Winona's, which always have enough sales that we usually get a strong trend line in what's going on in those districts. All classifications and districts with at least 6 sales ended up with acceptable ratios. No state board orders were issued. Winona County was ordered to keep current on farmland values to work on equalization among adjoining counties. The state continues to use updated sales ratios. The assessors don't like it, but we're stuck with it anyway. While it does measure market increases and decreases better, especially on decreases. When you get an increasing market, a lot of us think their new methodology double dips. That we're going to raise values because we know the sale prices are up, plus we have to account for their time adjustment. And I feel like we're double dipping them. They claim it's statistically accurate. I'm not convinced, but you know what? They get to make the rules. We follow the rules, and life goes on. Our number of new houses this year, we had 87 this year. That is the most new houses we have had since 2007. Mm-hmm. So we are starting to see some housing growth after, a long time of not having any.
Steve,
Next page.
before we go, this, just to clarify that, the third bullet point, the state time adjustment applied.
Right.
So that means the state told us you had to adjust everything up 3.45?
That's residential.
That's residential, and where last year it was like maybe 6? Okay, and that's just at their discretion?
Oh, they've got some magic program that, if I had my computer up here, I could show you how they do it. It's done off in Excel, and it's done through, if you really want to get geeky, they deal with quartiles and all this statistical stuff on it to come up with this. And to be really honest with you, residentially in this county, their number and what's in my head are always pretty close. Mm-hmm. Because we have so many sales in this county that you know.
But is that for every, was
Every
the
county.
3.45?
Every county's different.
Okay,
In fact,
the
in
formula.
Winona, we have 2 separate ones. This year they tended to be the same. We have what we call the Winona Metro number. So that's going to be Winona, Goodview, Rolling Stone Township, Wilson, and Homer. And then we have the rest of the county. But they were both almost identical this year. Other years, Winona's been higher. It's never been lower.
Okay. But they do call that the Winona Metro.
Yeah.
I knew that. I mean, I always felt that. I never heard it called the Winona Metro, though.
So, I mean, it's probably as reasonable way. They've got a statute that requires them to time adjust, and, I think it probably works fine. You can see on the next page, here's all our districts with at least 6 sales. We're required to be between 90 and 105%. We are between 90 and 105% on everything. Ignore the apartments because they're in 4 different taxing districts, and you have to have 6 in one district on apartments before that it becomes a valid ratio. But everything else is inside the ratio, where it says ratio, that's after we did the reassessment. The pre-adjustment ratio was before we did any updates. So if you go down and look at St. Charles, for instance, St. Charles was at 88.9. We adjusted it to approximately 93%. Most of these districts are being adjusted very much value range-wise. There are value ranges that are worth more than other value ranges. In Winona, if it's between 175 and 225, good luck, you can't find anything. Therefore, those prices and those price ranges, our assessments tend to be a little farther away than they are in some other price ranges. Therefore, when we redo values, we go into that price range and attempt to probably move them more than we would a $70,000 house on Chatfield Street. So we break them out by, we have 28 different items we can measure and on residential, and we look at them all. Again, residential sales slightly decreased over last year. Real estate professionals believe a lack of listing is the main contributor to this. And again, we talked about the ratios, Department of Revenue rules, median sales. So we throw out the highs and the lows, which gets us to a good middle. It takes outliers out. 6 sales in any district constitute a valid sample. Requirement between 90 and 100%, 105. We try to keep them under 100. Adjusted ratios under 90 will order increases, over 105 will decreases, and if we change anything by 20% or more, they won't change them no matter what our ratio is.
I don't understand that statement.
The 20% one?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say we are in Utica City, and we had a sale ratio of 70%, and we raised them by 20% or more, but we still didn't get to 90%. They will not give you a state-ordered increase if your local effort was at least 20%.
Okay. Got it.
But go back to your statement, the number of residential sales decreased slightly over last year. Real estate professionals believe lack of listings. But I've been to enough meetings to talk about millennials and having some millennials in my family, and then also talking to a mortgage lender in the family. These young people they've accumulated so much student debt, they can't get a loan. So home ownership, isn't as high a priority for them as it was maybe in, other generations. So yeah, there's a lack of housing to buy, but some places the millennials choose not to buy because they're job hoppers, they're going to move and everything, and they don't want to be tied, but they can't get a loan because they've got so much debt.
But I believe Winona does not have a significantly large millennial population. Not compared
No,
to
we're more of a retirement center.
Not compared to the Twin Cities.
No.
I think you have families moving in here. Millennials aren't the makeup of this community that much. Not like some places.
Right.
And so, I think that affects it. If you really want to read something good in the St. Paul paper, maybe it was yesterday, they had a really good article about how the city of St. Paul is dealing with, millennials starting to buy houses. And they want them in neighborhoods, and, they have seminars now they're putting on so they know how to do it right. And so, I think the millennials are starting to get rid of some of their student loan debt and are starting to look at houses. I know my son and daughter-in-law bought a house 4 years ago. They're already looking for another house. So they said this one isn't big enough anymore. And they're young enough, they figure they got enough years to pay for it. So anyway, so that's kind of that. Farmland values may be changed if border values with adjoining counties are not within 10%. Railroad utility values are state assessed, and state board orders are not subject to appeal. Next is our local border review history. We had 4 contacts at the whole county this year at our meetings, and consent adjustments are generally items where someone comes in and talks to us within 10 days of the meeting. We agree with them, so we just walk in the border review saying, hey, Joe and Betty were in, and, we recommend you make this change, because we can't change anything within 10 days of the start of their board review meeting. So that's what a consent adjustment is. So we made 10 of those in the whole county. That kind of ends kind of this. I wanted to spend a minute talking to you about pipelines. Pipelines have become a really, really big deal. There's been 2 local recent tax court decisions. One of them, Merck, Minnesota Energy, blah, blah company, affects Winona County. They court ruled 5 years of changes, 4 years of decreases, 1 year of increase. We ended up with a net loss of value of about $1.2 million. The city of St. Charles is the most affected of our local districts. They must have they've got some change station or something in St. Charles on this pipeline that has the highest value of anything in Merck is in St. Charles. A bigger one that does not affect us is this Enbridge pipeline, which runs mostly in northern Minnesota. Red Lake County, their refund on this is in excess of 1 year's levy for the entire county.
That's still in court, right?
No, that one's done.
That did settle.
Yeah, no, it didn't settle. Judge said this is what you're going to do.
Oh, okay, okay, I thought that was
And
still.
so, but I believe that they're going to do it, and I don't know what Red Lake County's going to do, because they don't have a year's money sitting in the bank. I don't know if they're going to go payment plan. I don't know what they're going to do, but there's been a lot of concern legislatively and everything else on these pipelines, where the Department of Revenue does the valuing.
Right.
But if there's any issues, the county's got to cough up the money that they've spent. Some of these cases are talking back 7-8 years ago. That's how long they've dragged out in court. And so you're refunding money that we collected 7-8 years ago.
And you're spending money
There was
to-
a bill this year at the legislature requiring the state to pay any refunds, but that didn't really go too far. And, in defense, I mean, the county did collect the money.
But don't the school districts and
Yeah,
the cities
they do. Yeah,
all have to?
everybody shares in that.
Yeah, everybody has to
Yeah,
send.
everybody shares.
Yeah.
So school districts, southeast Minnesota, housing, the county, everybody shares. But just Red Lake County's share was more than their annual levy.
Yeah.
So if you have a chance to, when you meet with legislators or whatever, you may want to impress upon them the lack of control counties have over this pipeline situation and how bad it can get if, it doesn't work out for us. Last thing I just have is a sheet. I'm not going to run over it. It just lists by each township how much total value is by major property type. This year, the county's total value exceeded $5 billion. That does not include tax-exempt property, and it doesn't include personal property mobiles. So, it's about $5 billion. New construction was almost exactly the same as last year. Certainly our largest, value area is residential, about $2.5 billion, or just about half the value of our county is in residential property. The next highest one is farms at about 1.5, and then rural vacant land is after that. Commercials after that at 5, and then 246 million on rural vacant, and then 202 million on industrial, on apartments. Commercial industrials are together. So, and again, almost the 80% of the commercial industrial value sets in the city of Winona, as does the majority of our apartment values. So that's all I had for a report for you folks today, unless you have any questions about anything else.
Well, so you're, go ahead.
On the pipeline court decisions, you said St. Charles is the most affected of the local districts. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, they had the most value. Most people,
But do you have any numbers, or?
well, the whole county, we just looked at it on a county thing. I'm trying to remember what it was. Do you remember, Sandra, how much of it was in St. Charles? Because that's not how we processed it. I just knew that's where it was, because
Yeah, I mean, I have the breakdowns on the credits per parcels that were issued, if you want that information, but between the abatements and the interest we have to pay back, it was just shy of $50,000 that we had to pay.
Countywide.
Yeah, for all, I think there were 9 parcels.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Was it half of it in St. Charles, or you don't know?
Oh, no, it wouldn't have been. You mean in the city of St. Charles? I would say close to half the values in the city of St. Charles on pipelines.
Okay.
But it was personal property
Yeah,
too, so,
right.
yeah.
But again, that's one of those we don't have any control over. They send a court order saying you'll do it, and then we do it.
So is there a station in it? I'm trying to picture. I can't
There's something
picture.
over there because it's way higher than anybody else.
Yeah.
We don't really know what's out
There's
there
a
from
fuel
the
thing,
assessment
but
point
that's-
of
I'm
view.
thinking that's
We
the
just
old-
get these things from the state that say you're going to assess them at this much money.
Right.
And then we assess them at that much money and, throw them in and away we go.
Yeah, I know.
Because we don't even look at them.
No, it's all determined by the
Yeah.
state. So I do have a question with the recent purchases of high-priced property by the
Well, I knew
Fastenal.
that was coming up.
Yeah,
and
so how's that going to throw, because what kind of monkey wrench is that going to throw into our system? And how's that going to impact the other properties? You throw out the high, you always tell me you throw out the highs. So will they all be thrown out or is,
I can tell you it's a unique situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to consider what's going on there, but I don't think we have to throw all of our eggs into the basket. I think a unique situation like that allows us to kind of say, well, that sale itself may not, certainly, the average selling price on that piece of land, if you include everything they bought, ended up being $38 a square foot when you look at land prices.
mm-hmm.
I can tell you, right now, we're assessing downtown at $12 a square foot.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I can guarantee you, if I put $38 a square foot on a lot of these downtown properties,
Audience.
it's going to be way more than any of them are worth. So we still have to look at the big picture on that. I had a meeting with my 2 commercial appraisers last week, and I told them one of the things they really got to be cognizant for when they're working downtown is to determine whether or not the property's highest and best use would be to be torn down and redeveloped, or whether the property has enough value and use in itself that it wouldn't be torn down. And other than that, I don't know what we're going to do. I've never had this happen to me in 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee you, just because they're paying 38 doesn't mean we're going 38 downtown.
Right. But somebody that doesn't live in Winona and doesn't appreciate it, they'll think we should be. I mean, somebody like at the state.
No, we've talked to them about that. So they know what the situation is.
Okay. Well, and I just took a quick walk before the meeting. I'm sorry, I couldn't believe how many vacant storefronts there are just in a short walk and a couple blocks around the downtown.
That,
A lot of them.
certainly one of my concerns this year as well. I mean, we changed some land values downtown this year, but none of them were based on any of that. It was based on a bunch of other stuff that happened earlier, before that. And, I mean, commercials are going up here. They're going up pretty much everywhere. Business is pretty good right now. The vacants, I don't know what the situation with those are. I agree with you. There's more than I took a walk to the barber a couple weeks ago, and there was more vacants than I was typically used to seeing when I take that walk every 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, usually when I drive, you can't see that the stores are empty, but when you walk, you see.
Well, I always want to walk because that way I can see what's going on.
Well, now we have, at the other end, we have the school district selling buildings far below because the newspaper, not your paper, but the Daily News reported those properties were worth, what, 1.2 million or
You
something?
always have to realize values on exempt properties are values as in use.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're school buildings, it's their value as a school building. When the school district sells them and says you can't use them for a school district, for a school building, you change the highest and best use on the property, and which also changes the value of the property. So what we do on those properties is when they go on the tax roll, we've talked to some potential buyers already. And once you buy it, you come in, you tell us what your plan is, how much it's gonna cost you to renovate this thing, and then we'll review it at that point. But, so it's, the values are used for different purposes.
Any other questions? All right. So we have act on assessor's consent change list. Okay, we have none. And act on property owners' appeals, and we have none, right? So.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Olson, second by Commissioner Jacob to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.